Is AA a cult? Is Alcoholics Anonymous a cult? Hello, welcome to Sobriety Bestie YouTube. I am Kirsten, and we're going to be looking at Is AA a cult today? This is a conversation, and I'm inviting you to join the conversation by putting your thoughts below. I understand that Is AA a cult is a inflammatory term and that it can be triggering to some and it can be liberating to some. I have a whole playlist here on YouTube about leaving AA, leaving recovery, and I'll pop that up here in case you want to start from the beginning. Basically, I got sober in 2009. I was inside Alcoholics Anonymous for 10 years and I've been outside. I left AA 5 years ago. Still have not had a drink, did not die. I'm not in an institution. And so, yeah, I want to unpack this idea of is AA a cult because so many people before they go to AA, while they're in it, maybe not so much when they're in it, but when they leave are wondering, is AA a cult? Like, what just happened to me? So if you have popped out of AA, you're considering leaving, or you have left and you're in the deprogramming process and you're wondering, what the heck did you just join? What was that? Because for me, it's like when I left AA, it was like a whiplash. It was like, what the fuck was I just in? As the mind control started fading and I started to see things more clearly and think more critically. So yeah, so is AA a cult? So I got sober September 29th, 2009, and I went to a non-12-step rehab. And in that rehab, we had an optional AA meeting once a week. My very last day of that week, I don't know if it was a Tuesday or Thursday, whatever it was, when we were going to go to the rehab, there was somebody in the rehab that I admired. Like, I knew he was kind of famous and I knew him before he got sober, and he was all about it. He was the only one in the entire rehab the entire time I was there that wanted to go to the AA meeting. And I thought, well, you know what, I'm leaving rehab in 2 days. If he's going to go, he's kind of cool, why don't I go see what it is? And I went into the van to go to rehab. So that was my first experience of Alcoholics Anonymous when I was. And then the night that I got out of rehab, it was a Thursday night. And within 2 hours of me being home, I had looked up where is a meeting near me, and I saw one that was down the street, like a couple of blocks away. So I went that night that I got out of rehab. I walked up, and I remember I was like at this turning point where I'm looking inside Alcoholics Anonymous and I'm looking literally kitty corner, like across the street, like at this intersection. I could see diagonally across is the bar that I used to go to every Thursday night. And it was a Thursday night. And I know if I walk in there, the bartender's going to put my drink on the counter. This is like where all my friends go. And so I'm looking at like this old familiar, it looked warm and inviting and amazing. And I'm looking in the door of Alcoholics Anonymous and I'm like, there's no way. And this is my literal thoughts in that moment. I don't want to go to a religious cult. There's no way. And at that moment, the thing that brought me in the door of AA was the fact that I had just spent all of this money on rehab. It was very expensive, as it is, as I'm sure you know. Rehab is, I don't know why it's so expensive, but it is. So that night I did go into AA, and the people in there were really nice. All these women gave me their phone number. They gave me the book. Someone said, I'm your sponsor. And I just remember thinking at this point, so like before I ever got to AA and my first night at a rehab, my thoughts about Alcoholics Anonymous was, this is a cult, this is a religious cult, and I do not want to join a religious cult. And then I remember like 6 women gave me their number, and somebody gave me like a pamphlet with all the meetings in the local area and circled all the ones that she really liked. And then she had another person circle all the meetings that she goes to, and they all wrote their number on this pamphlet and gave it to me. Somebody else, I had given her my number, she had asked for it, and I just felt I didn't really have good boundaries to say no because I didn't really want to join. Like, that was like what I was thinking. I was like, I didn't join. I didn't sign up. Give me a break. I'm just scared I'm gonna die. I just got out of rehab. I don't know which way is up, and like I don't know what to do. I'm having a panic attack. I don't want to join a religious cult. And so somebody who I'd already given my number to, she gave me the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and she said, I bought this for you. Here's your copy of the book. I am your temporary sponsor. We will go through this book together until you find a sponsor. And I just remember thinking in my head, like, I didn't join. I didn't join. I'm not it. I'm not in the religious cult. Somebody shared a cab home with me that night. She lived near me and she paid for the cab. And that was interesting. So I was like, wow, okay, maybe they're trying to like help me. So my mind started shifting from AA because of the kindness when I got there. There's a name for this. It's called love bombing. I was definitely love bombed when I got to AA. I'm not mad about that. That definitely is a high control or a cult like tactic, or a full blown cult tactic is to love bomb the new people, to bring them in, to give them love, kindness, all these things, buy them the books, buy them the literature. So I didn't realize I was walking into Well, I thought I was walking into a religious cult, and it kind of acted like that. And the lady who shared a cab home with me that night, the next day, she's like, "Meet me at a meeting tomorrow, and we'll get a coffee after." And I was like, "Cool, I can have a sober friend. She's going to be my first sober friend that I've ever had in my entire life." And so we go to the meeting, and then we go after to the cafe, and I'm thinking, I'm going to sit down with her and have a coffee. And she whips out the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and wants to read from it. And I'm just looking at her like, what the frick is this? This is totally a religious cult, and she wants to read me the Bible of this religious cult. That's how I was feeling. In the back of my mind, I was thinking like it'd be so fun to get drunk with her, right? I mean, I was drinking with all my friends before I got sober, right? And so then she wants to read with me out of this book, and it reminded me of when I was little and my best friend in grade school was a Jehovah Witness. And I remember I went to her house one time when I was little, and we were playing on the playground. She had a swing set, and then her mom rang a bell, and she's like, "Oh, we got to go in now." And like her brothers and me and her, we all went inside, sat around the table. Her mom had made brownies. They were still hot. They were so good. I still remember the brownies. But the weird thing is that there's books all around the table, and so we started reading the Jehovah Witness books all together. And I remember thinking that this is really weird. Why do I have to read out of your book? Needless to say, my mom was a little shocked when I came home with all these Jehovah Witness books and told me I can't go back to that lady's house ever again, my friend's house ever again. And I never did. I never was back in her house to read the books again. But so the day after I get out of rehab, and I've just gone to a meeting with this woman that said she wanted to be my friend, my first sober friend, when she starts reading the AA book to me, all I'm thinking is, this reminds me of Jehovah Witness. This reminds me of like that childhood friend who wanted me to read their book with him. I don't want to read your book. I just want a friend. I just want to not die. I want to not drink, right? And it was so weird because it's like you've probably been through the AA literature if you're here, maybe you haven't, but it's like that you read the preamble. It was like "We the 100 of Alcoholics Anonymous," and it goes through like the first edition, the forward to the first edition, and it just didn't make any sense to me. And I was having an anxiety attack. I mean, I was like, I don't know, 2, 3 weeks off benzos at that point, day out of rehab. Things were really confusing. I was really scared. And I just really wanted a friend at that time. I didn't want to read the literature, but it was like friends with conditions. The only way I could be friends with these people who were sober is if I read the literature and started to change my thinking to what they were thinking. And at that time, I wasn't really aware of what was happening, what the process was. Even though in the back of my mind, I was like, it's a religious cult, and it kind of felt like one with how people were presenting things and doing things. I didn't want to join a cult. I just didn't want to die. Nobody joins a cult. We join a solution. At some point, I didn't just accept the brainwashing. I believed I needed it. There was still that part of me that, wants the belonging that all humans have. I almost died from alcohol and fear, essentially. And so I just wanted to live. So I was really desperate and wanted to live. I didn't know anybody who was sober. And so there were so many reasons why it hit so deep. And I was willing to have somebody that I don't even know, a stranger basically, read this book that I don't even want to read to me. And so, yeah, I slowly was getting introduced into the ideology, but I didn't even know what an ideology was. It was a little embarrassing, but we learn as we learn, right? I didn't know what an ideology was, like the whole idea of an ideology, or that one could possess us, or what a high control group is, or even really what a cult was, until I left and started deprogramming and got that whiplash, that post AA whiplash of what the fuck was all of this. And you don't know it's a cage when the inmates are love bombing you. A cult or high control group is like a psychological con job, a plague that infects you and then you pass it on. And so in my early days in AA, so I got to AA, I got out of rehab after 30 days. And so the first like 30 to 60 days or 30 to 90 days, my first couple of months, month or two in Alcoholics Anonymous, I kind of stopped thinking about in the back of my mind, is this a religious cult? I didn't like the religious part of it, or the part that was about God and a higher power and how God was in the steps and everybody in the room was talking about God and that was the solution. But I kind of put that in the back of my mind because of the hope, and like the drug of hope is so strong, right? And so I saw these people who had what I wanted basically, which was their lives were coming back together, they weren't drinking. And so I put some of my doubts aside. This is the end of 2009. And I remember people, and maybe this is still what's happening today, put it down in the comments if when you got to AA, if people joked about you're being brainwashed, but you need it. Because that's what happened for me. I remember the culture, it was people were saying, especially in their first year of sobriety, it was like being spread down to the newcomers. The culture was that, yes, we're being brainwashed and we need it. So there was this kind of like acknowledging that our mind was being controlled and that we needed our mind to be controlled because our mind was trying to get us drunk, trying to get us dead, trying to take us out, trying to do something bad to us. So we actually needed to be mind controlled. We needed to be brainwashed. So I remember thinking, because I kept hearing it from all my new friends who were giving me all of this love bombing, new attention. Now I had plans every day because I was going to a meeting every day, and I had all this connection and I had all this hope that maybe I was going to make it. I am grateful for what I got in AA. I have a lot of problems now when I look back on it. There's just no informed consent. There's so many issues that I actually have with the program, with how what's done. I didn't know what I was signing up for. I didn't understand the whole process, and I don't think any of us are. There's not a form we sign where we're aware of what the potential risks are. Like when you go to get a surgery and they read you through what's the percentage that you're going to survive, what are the possible complications. Informed consent is so important, and when we're really vulnerable, like when we're getting sober, I understand the mentality is the ends justify the means, which is a very cult like mentality where we can mind control people, we can do all these things, we can coercively control them, we can indoctrinate them with phobias like to leave the group is to die, which is pretty deadly, a deadly idea, not a deadly reality. And so we can do all these things because we believe it and also because they'll die otherwise. So because we feel like we're saving lives, we can do all these things to people and not tell them, and we might not even be realizing we're doing them ourselves. I didn't realize because there's no one to blame. There is nobody to blame. And the reason why I say there's nobody to blame in AA, because if we're blaming AA, we're blaming me. We're blaming whoever was in AA. If you were in AA, then you're to blame. Because that's why I'm saying it's like this, it kind of like this infectious disease where somebody has it and then they give it to somebody else and they don't, that's not like they meant to. But we're doing it because we think we're saving people, we're saving lives, right? And so someone thinks they're saving my life, so they're going to do all this stuff that they might not do if they weren't in this group and in this ideology. So there's no one to blame because we're the ones perpetuating it. If we're sponsoring people, if we're talking in meetings, if we're reading the book with people, if we're taking them to a cafe on their first day out of rehab and reading them the big book, just like my Jehovah's Witness friend did, we're doing it. We are doing the indoctrination. We are doing the process. We are controlling the minds. The friend who was indoctrinating me the day after I got out of rehab, she only had 30 or 60 days more than me. So she was 90 days sober when I was 30 days sober. And she was 3 months in doing this to me, right? Indoctrinating me. So slow and like insidious that it's like I kind of saw it was happening, but it wasn't really recognizing it. And the thing I want to point out here, obviously, I'm not a cult specialist. That should be obvious. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not your mental health care provider. I'm literally a bestie in the woods, sharing my experience, sharing my story, sharing my truth with you in hopes that it awakens something in you or it liberates something in you or literally just wanting to start a conversation about this. I don't like that so much of this is in the dark. And I feel like from my deep in my core that I want to shine a light on this. Right now I'm making a playlist for you here on YouTube all about leaving recovery because I think it's the phase of sobriety, the phase of recovery that nobody talks about, that we can graduate, that we can leave. Most of us, maybe not all of us, talk to your doctor. I'm not one. Remember, bestie in the woods up in here. But I really think that this phase of sobriety, this phase of recovery needs to be talked about when we end recovery, when we leave recovery. And the indoctrination, the ideology of AA says it's a forever recovery model. It says that we can never leave. And so as I'm going in and I'm willingly in some way, but not really consensually, because I don't understand what brainwashing is. I don't understand what that means. I don't get the consequences long term about what this is going to mean for me. And nobody ever said, okay, we're going to program you to save your life. And then the next phase is we're going to deprogram you because you're no longer in survival mode. Nobody talks about the deprogramming. Well, there are a few people that talk about the deprogramming actually. If you are looking for a deprogramming group, there are a couple of really good ones on Facebook. I recommend going to Facebook and looking at deprogramming 12-step deprogramming Alcoholics Anonymous. There are some good Facebook groups on there. So there are people talking about deprogramming, but nobody inside Alcoholics Anonymous will even acknowledge that people are being programmed, let alone that they need to be deprogrammed if they're going to leave, if and when they leave, and that in fact you should leave. And leaving is a good sign of your recovery. Just like if you break a leg and you're wearing a cast, at some point you get the cast removed. You don't worship the cast, you use the cast as you recover that broken bone, and then you're free. You might have a little wobble. Maybe you have a little vulnerability in your leg because it was broken. Maybe your gait's a little bit different, but you don't need to wear the cast forever. That's how I look at Alcoholics Anonymous or any alcohol addiction recovery. It's temporary, it's like a cast, and at some point in time we can pop out of it. Again, I'm not your doctor, so make sure you talk to your doctor with that. But even the NIH in America says that recovery is like stable recovery is at 5 years sober. So it's like, at what point are we ready to leave? I believe, and my truth is that we got to trust ourselves. And so when I felt that I could leave at 5 years sober, I could have. I just didn't know it was possible because nobody's really talking about this. No one's really being open about AA in the first place because of anonymity, and let the fact that you can leave AA, because when you speak about leaving AA, oh, I will talk about it in a bit, because when you speak about leaving AA, you get what feels like a freaking cult coming after you. That is my experience now. I'm like, if you're not a cult, why are you acting like it? Because as soon as I speak out about it, which is 5 years after I left, now it's starting to feel like one. If you really want to know how I feel currently, although we'll get to that with a deeper unpacking. Leaving AA didn't just mean finding a new path, it meant rebuilding a self I hadn't met yet. So when I left Alcoholics Anonymous on April 6th, 2020, and if you want to know why I left, I'll pop the video up here about why I left AA after 10 years. When I left AA, I started wondering, that whiplash of what the fuck was I in? What just happened? What is all this? Because the ideology cracked, my cognitive dissonance, these holding these two different beliefs at the same time, when I started critically thinking and wrapping my brain together around what was that? What do I actually believe? What does the current science say? What do the current professionals say? What does my doctor, what does my therapist say? Not the people in church basements, but the people who actually are not involved in that. What are they saying about the best way forward is? What are the people who've studied this, who are professionals? What does my gut say? What does my mind say? What do I actually think is real here? And what makes sense? What does the peer-reviewed scientific articles say about addiction, about recovery, about trauma, about all of the things, including neurodivergence, which I didn't realize when I left AA that I was neurodivergent, or what's called neurodivergent, right? Because I hadn't had assessments yet to understand my brain better and my neurology better. But I had this like, what the heck just happened? So I started studying lots of different things. At that point, I felt like, I don't think AA is a cult, but it for sure is a high control group. And for sure it was coercive control. And for sure there was a lot of emotional manipulation. So what I did is, I left AA April 6th, 2020. So this is like very early days pandemic. So I had a lot of time. And I went hard into studying, and I studied emotional manipulation in general, but also in the frame of cult psychology and in high control groups, but also in individual people, because they even say things like cult of one. So you can have a cult of two people, a cult of a family, like cults, small cults, or like worldwide global cults. So at that point, when I was leaving, I felt like, okay, I don't think it's a cult, but thinking of cult as a framework really helped me deprogram. And for sure, it's a high control group. And I started studying all the controls so I could kind of use my critical thinking to unlock. It felt like I was unlocking little pockets of freedom. Each time I found a term that I could see that AA was doing to basically control my mind or control my worldview or to brainwash me, I was like, oh, okay. And then I would like kind of drill in on it. Like I'd find a term like ideological possession. And so ideological possession is when we are essentially possessed by an ideology. So for me, I was ideologically possessed. I was possessed by the ideology of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so what that meant was I was like inside the worldview, and I was seeing the world through Bill's ideas, essentially through the AA ideology, as if it was all true without critically thinking about it. I had accepted all of the program, well, a lot of it, most of it, as reality. And then it became my reality because of that. And so when I would learn terms like ideological possession or any other of the cult psychology terms, and I could see how those tactics were used on me and at play within AA, it helped me wake up. So I found this studying process to be super, super liberating. If you are in that middle period of you have left AA and you're in the mind fuckery and you're not back over to freedom yet, into your identity and into your power and into clarity on who you are, I do have an on-demand online course that I made called Evolving After Recovery. If you want to check that out, I will link it below. So it's a self-study course if you want to get free from the dogma of AA and reclaim your power, your life, and your autonomy. Deprogramming isn't just leaving the rooms, it's getting the rooms out of your head. AA is a psychological con job, one you didn't even realize you're in, and perpetuating until you leave. So I left AA April 2020, And then it wasn't until 2025, because I never thought I was going to talk about AA ever. I never, ever, ever directly said on the internet that I was in Alcoholics Anonymous when I was in it. And I never said anything about it at all when I left AA. I just stayed silent, like a lot of us do. A lot of us leave AA anonymously and stay silent. And there's this myth in AA that the people who leave, they go to jails, institutions, or death, or it's terrible out there. And then because the only people that they hear from, because of the silence culture, the anonymity culture, and because of the cult like tendencies to shame us and to come after us and try to control us and silence us if we speak about it, if we leave. So the only voices that they ever hear inside the rooms, really, or in my experience, is the people who go out, get drunk, it's terrible, and then they come back into AA and say, I went out, I got drunk, it was terrible, you guys are right, I'm back. So those are the case studies. They're very, very specific. But you take these little specific case studies and paint a whole big picture about like that's what happens to everybody, and it's just not true. There's a lot of us out here anonymously left the anonymous group and are doing just fine. We're not drinking, we're not dead, or maybe even some of them are drinking and they're fine. I've met some of those people too that are now moderately drinking. So I was silent about it all. Didn't really tell anybody. I had a few friends that also left AA that I knew they were out and they knew I was out, but I kept kind of hush hush about the whole thing. Didn't think I was ever going to talk about it. And then 2025 comes around and it's like I felt like there was like this volcano of energy just building and building and building and building in me, this feeling like that I'm supposed to talk about it, that I need to talk about this, that this is something that I want to speak about. And so if you've been here on my YouTube channel a while, you'll notice, if you look, have a little look see, or maybe you've been here and you've seen it, is that every time I've gone through like a major fear, I've had a major breakthrough, I turn around and make videos about it. I help people with that in my coaching business, or I make an online course to solve that problem. That's been my journey since I got on YouTube. First, it was anxiety. All my videos were about anxiety in the brain and how to calm your nervous system down. My first course was about anxiety, my first online course. And then I did driving anxiety because I had a freeway phobia. And when I broke through that, I shared about that in videos on YouTube. And then I made a course about how to overcome freeway phobia, and then public speaking, and then emotions and sobriety, and then now leaving AA. So I've always gone through a major fear and then wanted to share about it, because I've always thought at my core that like I want to be who I needed when I was going through it. And so because what I needed wasn't exactly there in all of these times, I wanted to create it for other people and just say, here's my YouTube channel. Dive in. If you like it, you get value from it. That's what I'm here for. If not, fine. There's plenty of other channels out there. But that's always been my vibe. And so I do feel this thing as part of who I am, compelled to help people through what I've been through. And I'm not particular and specific on what that one thing is. It evolves as I evolve. And so I was feeling that bubbling up inside me about talking about leaving AA. Another part of me that was still programmed was like, I can't talk about the anonymous program. I can't talk about AA. You can't talk about AA. Stay silent. And then it just got to a head in 2025, like recently this year. And I said, right, okay, so why don't I let myself talk about it? And that's when I made the outline for what now became my course, Evolving After Recovery. And I was like, I want to talk about it. And that was so liberating to let myself create that course and just film it all and actually talk about it. And then I wanted to talk about it on the internet too. And so when I was making the course, though, I still hadn't come out online to people, or to people in AA didn't know that I left. So in that phase of my journey, did I think AA was a cult? Not really. So here I am doing all the research. I'm even researching, is AA a cult? And I made an entire lesson about that. And so I used AI, literally spoke into AI all the things of my experience, also had AI loaded with the big book and the program of AA and the culture. And we looked at, is AA a safe group, a high control group, or a cult? Where on this spectrum of groups is it, right? All the way from safe group through high control to full blown cult. And the conclusion at this time, before I came out and spoke about it online, was that it is a high control group with cult like tendencies. Some of the ways it operates are for sure cult like, but not all of them in a way to make it a full blown cult. That was my conclusion with the help of AI at that time, literally like a month or two ago, not that long ago. But now, now that I've been speaking about AA on the internet and I've been experiencing Alcoholics Anonymous from the outside, as somebody who has dissented against Alcoholics Anonymous because I have dared to open my mouth and share my experience, which is very triggering for some people. And I actually have a lot of empathy for that. I'm not speaking about AA to piss people off. I'm aware that it will. Some people, I'm speaking about AA and my experience leaving because it was literally one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I know it is also for a lot of other people. And so I'm doing it for the people who would love to be validated the way that I would want to be validated, the way that I wanted to be validated when I was leaving, but there was nobody out there telling the truth in a way that would actually resonate with me. There was the people that were really angry about AA, and then there was the people that wouldn't even say that you could leave AA or leave recovery at all. And there was nobody just being in a way that would have been helpful to me, which would be somebody that was just honest about, yes, I liked AA, yes, it worked for me, I got benefits, and I left. Now I look back and I'm like, what the fuck was that? And let's unpack it, right? Let's deprogram because you've been programmed and you got something from it, or maybe you didn't. But now let's talk about the deprogramming part of it and how to get AA out of your head. You needed AA in your head, or you benefited from it, or you ended up there and got AA in your head. Now let's take it out of your head because there is a real deprogramming process, especially when it comes to like self-esteem and self-worth. A lot of people have been DMing me since I've been talking about AA the past 2 weeks online about how they watch their self-esteem and self-worth decline over the years of staying in AA because of that you can't trust your thinking, outsource your autonomy to your sponsor, to the group, to a higher power. So there's a lot of ways that it can like erode our self-confidence that we might not even be aware of, but that we remember being more confident maybe before AA or even before the drinking got really bad or whatever. So yeah, when I was filming the course about deprogramming AA, my conclusion was there's definitely some cult-like stuff going on. And the conclusion is high control group, not an actual cult. But now that I am outside of AA and talking about it, and I've experienced probably the most psychologically bizarre thing in my entire life, which is experiencing the high control from the outside. If you have left and you have talked about it, you will know what I'm saying, most likely. If you haven't, you might have no idea what I'm talking about. Or you can imagine if you had left another group that might have been high control or cult like, what it's like to be on the outside of a group that used to control you. Oh my God, there's a deer. That's so cool. Honestly, I'm actually considering changing my mind. My mind is changing. I'm noticing that my mind is changing. It's not like I'm trying to change my mind. It's like my experience now. I'm having a new experience with Alcoholics Anonymous because of the amount of people who are coming at me with all different angles. There's common angles. Like I'm totally seeing patterns. There's been enough people coming at me for speaking out about AA, my honest experience, which I get can be highly offensive to people. I'm not innocent in this. I chose this. I walked into the arena. I'm not naive. Um, I'm not doing it to piss people off, right? I'm doing it to help the people who need to hear this message, who I wish I could have heard it. And so the amount of people that are coming at me in the different categories, there's the people that are just straight up rude and they're just assassinating me personally with their words. That's just somebody, I don't know, go talk to your sponsor. Like, that's just like, okay, what I'm interested in is the thinkers, the people who have opinions and want to like, talk it apart and unpack it and have something meaningful to contribute other than I'm dumb, I'm in denial, I'm delusional. It's like, okay, great. And so then there's the people who will defend the dogma and will come out and will say, will just respond with the slogans or with the ideology. And that group of people, it's a little bit weird because it's boring in one sense because they're just parroting the ideology. They're not actually telling me what they think, or they're not actually hearing what I'm saying or responding to what I'm saying. They're just responding with literally what's in the culture, what's in the book, what's in the program. So it's kind of boring. It's like, I mean, it could be anybody. And they're all kind of saying the same thing. And also with these people, there's no point in even responding to them because they can't hear me because they're inside the ideology. And I get that because I've been inside the AA ideology before. So this is, that but for the grace of God, there go I. I get it. I lived it. Gosh, I don't want to say this so extremely, but I didn't understand AA fully until I was in it fully for 10 years. And then I got out of it and had the time out of it. And now that I'm speaking out about it, because until I experienced AA from the outside, I didn't really get what it was. So is AA a cult? Is it not a cult? The way that a lot of people are acting right now that I'm talking about it on the internet is really freaking culty. It's making me tip over to maybe it is a cult. Maybe AA is a cult. It's not that it matters what I personally think. It only matters what you think. And it doesn't even matter if it is a cult. It only matters is, are you benefiting from it? Is it working for you? Do you want to think critically? Do you want to heal from being in this high control ideology slash potential cult? I don't even think that the word is even that important. But the way that I'm feeling about it now, it's like, especially when there's this one specific group of people that are coming at me in the comments, they're starting off people, and these are people that I know from AA, that I actually have been to their house before, we've had a relationship or whatever. So these people are starting off nice. Oh, I hadn't thought about that before. They're just kind of being nice, right? And then they're kind of being nice with control. Oh, but maybe you shouldn't talk about that. And then they're being nice with like rude, more aggressive, like, why don't you get a hobby? What the hell is this? Stop talking about this. I'm getting really uncomfortable. And so it's slowly moving over in my mind, named these people because it's this weird phenomenon where I'm like, I kind of know you. I've been to your house. We were friends in the program, like in the beginning. They're doing this kind thing, and then it turns kind control, and then just straight control and mean and rude. And um, yeah, so I call it kind bombing, like love bombing, but kind bombing because they're trying to control me, but they're doing it through this like sugar coated piece of shit. They're like trying to hand me the piece of crap, but it's like so much whipped cream on it. And then the next time there's less whipped cream and then less whipped cream. And then they're just trying to shove it in my face. And I see it. It's disgusting. It feels gross. It like literally just feels gross in my body because I see that they're trying to control me and I have empathy for their perspective and their point, but it also is just like, I know they're not going to hear me. I know they don't really know what they're doing. I know that they're essentially possessed by the ideology and they think that they're helping somebody, but they can't hear that I'm helping somebody else and that that's okay too. Because I'm not saying don't program the people. I'm saying, can we talk about deprogramming the people when they leave and how hard it is to leave? If you care about them when they're getting sober, can we care about them when they leave recovery? It's the same person. The same person who enters AA that you say that we need to care about is the same person that leaves AA. That I'm saying we should also care about that person and that part of their journey. It's the entire journey of sobriety and recovering from alcohol addiction. Why do we have to ignore this phase? But nobody who's actually in AA can answer that directly to me in a way that is actually logical. They just start putting the dogma on me and so or tell me to stop talking. So because of all of the what I'm experiencing with the dissenting, of the silencing, the shame, and the control, it's really changing my mind. Because if AA is not a cult, why are you acting like it? So in conclusion, is AA a cult or is Alcoholics Anonymous not a cult? In my opinion, at this point, and again, I'm more interested in your opinion. I want to hear it in the comments. At this point of where I'm at, 5 years out of 10 years in AA, 5 years out of AA, 2 weeks talking about AA online about that I left AA, my current opinion, which may change, is that it is definitely a high control group. A lot of it is cult like. And the way that I see it now is that there are some groups that probably could qualify as cults and that some groups are not. But the whole thing is high control for sure, 100% in my opinion. But some people in it act cult like. So you can't separate those people from the actual group. It's like separating the salt from the ocean. Go swim in the ocean, don't get the salt on you. The salt's not the ocean, it's just the water. It's like, but you can't have that experience. I can't join Alcoholics Anonymous without having the experience of the members in the meeting in the group. So you can't say the members aren't the program because the members are the program, because I can't go to the program without having the members tell me all the things that they do and control me the way that they might, the way that some of them actually are when I'm leaving. So the people that are coming at me, whether it's the kind bombers, like the love bombers being kind, or whether it's just the straight up dogma defenders, or the people who are just violent in what they say, um, I can't separate those people and those reactions about me leaving AA and talking about it, and them trying to control me, silence me, shame me, or even get me back in, try to convince me that their group is different and I should come to their group. So it's all like the dogma coming at me and the control coming at me. And because that actually exists, that is AA. That is AA. AA does do that. It is happening. It's happening a lot to me right now. So I think some of the people within Alcoholics Anonymous act culty AF. So is it a cult? Is it not a cult? Who am I to decide? I'm going from before I ever got there, yes, it's a religious cult, to when I was inside, I need the brainwashing. And then I didn't even think about is it a cult or not when I was in there. I was totally culted. I was like in it. And then I leave and I'm like, nah, it's not a cult. It's a high control group. And now I'm like, maybe it is a cult. But I haven't decided yes it is, but that's where I'm at right now is maybe it is. Or maybe just part of it is. But how do you separate part from the whole? Because that's my experience right now is the people who are trying to control me and silence me or indoctrinate me or get me back in, that's giving cult. So if AA is not a cult, why are people acting like it? It's just a riddle. I have no answers. I just wanted to come to the woods, listen to the birds chirp, and have a little conversation about is AA a cult? Because I know it's what a lot of us think and consider. And I wanted to have that be an open conversation here in the comments for you to join. And then AAs say, that's not AA. It's not in the book. But AA is more than a book. It's the people, the slogans, the culture, the silence. If it's not a cult, why are they acting so culty? A healthy system doesn't try to silence you when you leave. Also, one other thing that's really cool is if you are in the deprogramming process, I did just start a weekdays daily podcast on Sobriety Bestie podcast channel on all the podcast platforms. It is called Daily Dogma Detox, and we are going day by day, Monday through Friday. There's a new audio to deprogram from AA's high control ideology. So you are welcome to join me on any of your favorite podcasting platforms for the Sobriety Bestie podcast. I will put all the links below to the podcast. I'll see you in the comments. Have a beautiful day.